Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and in today's video, sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms, you might be a little surprised to see that we've won the zone. And if you've tuned into my streams, you know that I expressed no small amount of frustration around the fact that I felt like I was getting pretty pushed around in the open field. So how is it that we went from kind of getting pushed around to free burning the zone? They've given up? They've moved on? What happened? We got to go get a look at the data here, and I think it tells an interesting story. All right, my friends, here we go. The war camp we were fighting up top, 489, 2654. Our war camp down below, 2377, 2217. When we look across this data, there's two really interesting things that I'll point to. Actually, three. The first is we get a look at the KP gain. And when we look at the KP gain, we definitely did not gain as much KP as 2489. That would point to like, yeah, I mean, they definitely had an edge there. And our allies in our war camps here, I mean, about the same. Same. Like it's within 3 billion kill points of each other. Pretty close, actually, overall. Now, as we scroll to the right here, T4, T5, KP gain, KP loss. Okay. Where things get interesting is healed troops. Holy smokes. Like, yeah, I mean, this difference here is so small with the allies. Like, okay, about the same in terms of performance. Our allies did better, but like, directionally the same, okay? But a billion heal difference is kind of like, whoa. Hold up. Wait a minute. That's a lot more healing, okay? That is a lot more healing. Speed ups, resources, but wait a minute. What's this troop loss statistic? Bro, this is crazy. So we're looking at 100 million more troops lost for 2489. We'll zoom out. You can see the reading here. Holy moly. They may have beat us up in the field, but that came at a troop loss cost that was super meaningful. Even their allied war camp lost a ton of troops compared to our allied war camp. This is a surprising statistic. And I'm sure they're looking at the data just the same as we are, which has got to be why they decided, okay, you guys can have the zone. Because you continue at this rate for the rest of KVK and we just win, especially because we have more troops to begin with, right? That's like the thing that differentiates our side is an amount of power from Wild Lion Mr. Hope above and beyond their power. Like quite literally. Like, if I remember the opening statistics correctly for the war camps, the KP was about the same, but we had slightly more power, something like that, right? Now, this troop loss number tells a really powerful story, in part because when you look at this number, you have to remember that, like, 45 million of this is just Wild Lion and Mr. Hope. And they're not going to get zeroed this KVK. If they do, I will applaud them for the best performance of any player in any KVK in the history of the game. It is so hard to actually lose productively that many troops, I should say, right? If they productively could lose all their troops, but the point I'm making is, if that troop loss is actually effectively zero, because I think we all can point to that and go, yeah, they're not going to run out of troops all KVK long. So it is effectively zero. That means like our felt troop loss number is much closer to like 240 million. Okay. Now 2489 has some big players too. So it's not really an apples to apples comparison, but like that's a big difference in lost troops. So did we just win by that much more in the garrison? Maybe, but I have a theory, and it's just a theory, and it doesn't mean I'm right. But long ago, I pointed to this thing, and people didn't listen to me, and I tried to advise about it, and they kept brushing it off, and here we are, and I think it's the reality that's come back. Let's get a look at why is it that we would have had so many more healed troops, but way fewer losses. Here's what I think the answer is. We're in a King of All Britain KVK, and we have stratagems. And this one stratagem, I feel like most people do not know when to properly deploy. It's do or die. Now, this gives you 10% more damage, but comes at the cost of 2% of your Sev wounds now being lost troops permanently. So this is major. Now, it's funny because in my last video, when I said RIP F2P, you know, it was hyperbole, okay? But my last video, I talked about the new crystal tech changes, and I was like, 10% damage is a big deal. And I think people got it, that like, you know, if you understand the way the game works, you look at 10% all damage and you're like, oh my God, this is huge. Okay? It's a big deal. I'm emphasizing this because they beat us up in the field. I think maybe they were using this. This is just my hypothesis. I have to talk to somebody in 489. If they all were using this, though, let's say just 100 people in their war camp, okay? Not even like counting the other, you know, kingdom they've got in there with them. But if just 100 people from their war camp use this for this zone fight, all right? And they lost 500,000 troops, which like would be a reasonable amount, okay? For the amount of fighting that we're doing. That might even be a small amount, but let's say they lost 500,000 troops each, okay? We're looking at 50 million lost troops. Well, suddenly, like, trade a little better in the garrison, plus 50 million lost troops, and this explains why we got dunked in the field, I felt, in part. It would explain the troop loss numbers, in part. The use of this. Okay, and I advised long ago on exactly when and where you should use this, but I don't think it's for a fight on a zone that doesn't have an objective. Now, turning it on for the Castrum fight, I think is super reasonable. If you're like, we win the Castrum, we win the zone. Like, okay. There's moments where I think this, which clearly has an impact on the field result, clearly makes the difference. Now, it could just be numbers. The whole thing could just be, oh, we had numbers or they had numbers, and whoever had more people on the field at that moment in time really had that much of an advantage. And maybe they just had more numbers than we did enough of the time that they just beat us up. And maybe our garrisons just trade that much better. Our rally garrison is somehow that much better. I don't think it is, man. I wonder if there was a kingdom-wide strategy for using this in 489. If not, well, maybe they just beat us up and they're that much better than us in the field, and maybe we're just that much better at garrisoning. I don't know. This is just my tinfoil hat. But I think I might be right on this. Either way, it's extremely powerful, and it's so funny that yesterday I was like, if only we had a way to see what 10% more damage looks like. Oh. Here it is, baby. Here it is. How does this affect your trade quality? I suppose if I had this stratagem, I could turn it on, hit something, and make a video talking about here's how 10% all damage will change your trade result. But anyways, I don't know. I guess I could make that video. Maybe I'll go do that. I got to think on how exactly I want to do it. Anyways, you enjoyed this one, throw a like on here, subscribe to the channel. It was a fun zone fight, although I was definitely frustrated about getting pushed around in the field a fair amount. And if this is what was being deployed, I mean, it would for sure add up, especially if they also have numbers. But also they might just have numbers, because numbers is like the whole thing. It's really like, yeah, you gotta have gear, but you know, I think 2377 is pretty geared up. So are they. Anyways, that's enough tinfoil hatting from Chisgule. You enjoyed the video, throw a like on here, subscribe. This was definitely a memorable tussle in this zone. And looking forward to the next ones. Those next ones likely to be the zone 6 fights, where, I don't know, it's going to be like 3 days of pass watch, right? Unless something crazy happens, you know, some time guarding passes, and then Kingsland down the road. So that should be pretty fun. It's probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks down the road. I'll have to get a look at a calendar to see when that is. All right. Maybe I'll update the pinned comment with that. You enjoyed this, throw a like and subscribe. Thank you again to the makers of the game for sponsoring this video. And if you want to see how the crystal tech's changing, check the card in the end screen. Also, I'll have YouTube recommend one just for you. YouTube recommendation right over here. Check it out.